through storms, unshaken, unbowed. Through trials and verdicts, still standing proud. A titan in the tempest, against the raging crowd. He's got a vision for the future, gonna shout it loud. Changing the wind, it's coming fast. A new foundation built to last. Cryptocurrency's the key, make the big switch. Power to the people, time to teach the rich.
Welcome, everyone, this morning to the Crazy Cryptonaut channel. I am Zester, and I hope everyone is having an awesome end to the week. Thank you all for joining so very much. And good morning to Kukla and Mile High Trish. Good morning, Nana Anna. Good morning, Tahoe and Nature Girl. Good morning, a joyful voice. Good morning, Larry Rubik over there. Good morning, Ella Fleming. Good morning, Grandma Sally. Hey, good morning, Old Rounder and Linda Hearn and David. Thank you so much for my Apple Man. That is much appreciated. Good morning there, Crazy Chester and Mary Jones. I hope that it is an awesome start. And today, in terms of our crypto news, well, we've got a little bit of interesting crypto news, but in all honesty, I think that all of the oxygen has kind of been taken out of the news scene by the Elon Musk, Donald Trump feud, spat, conflict. I've seen quite a few different words used to describe what's currently going on between the two of them, and that really has kind of taken away all of the oxygen from all the other news stories, it seems like. But we've got some interesting ones, some Trump-related ones in terms of cryptocurrency. But I am very curious, before we go getting too far, to hear everyone's opinions on the Elon Musk-Trump spat, because it's very distracting. As Tahoe says, right off the bat, extremely. While everyone is going ahead and typing out what all they think is going on, I'm going to make certain to read the obligatory before we get into any crypto news. Thank you, Trish, for putting it up there, and Kukla as well. The content in this podcast is for information and educational purposes. It is not intended to provide any financial or medical advice. Please consider everything to be Zester's opinion, and please consult with a financial, medical, legal, etc. professional before making any decisions. A very important one that has to be there to make the alphabet gods happy. Good morning, Kathy Robbins and Laura Classy. I'm just going to go with Laura Classy. It makes it sound like you're a very classy lady, Laura, and my apologies, because I am not positive on the pronunciation on that last one. Linda Hearn, yes, but it got Congress thinking. In regards to the Elon Musk and Trump, it seems like it's gotten everybody thinking. Lady J Ford at Crazy Kryptonite, can you see me in this pod chat? No one can see me in your pod anymore. I doubt the thumbs are even being counted. Well, Lady J Ford, don't you worry. I not only can see you, you're up on screen. I can guarantee that you're here. That I can guarantee. Old Rounder, bro. Trump trusted Elon too much. This feud is not good for making America great again. I would have to entirely agree. No matter what, it's a bad look. I might be able to look at it and say, well, it's just two guys having a spat, or maybe they have more of a larger plan based around it. But from an outside perspective looking in, it's not a good look for the MAGA movement, because Elon was and still, I think, is a huge asset for the movement. He has the ability to really ensure that we're capable of getting our messages out on things like X. He has the ability to support, from a technology standpoint, many of the different endeavors. It's worrying. It's worrying. It is quite worrying. That is for certain. Merkba Star, is XLM going to be a leading coin for QFS? Whenever I look at XLM, I look at XLM, XRP, XTC, and a few others, Hedera, I suppose, to a degree, as really fitting all inside of the same little category. They are competitors with each other. Ultimately, they are in competition with each other. And we want that because we want the best to win. In that regard, Merkba XLM is something that I hold. It's something that serves a very, very similar purpose to XRP. And I imagine over the coming months, years, etc., we're going to see them kind of specialize more in terms of the services they provide, maybe what assets they plan on tokenizing, what real world assets they plan on focusing on tokenization of. That's where we don't have enough information really yet. Right now, Merkba, we could honestly look at it and we can say, well, there are other companies that are outstripping the public announcements or the work heading towards the tokenization of certain things like silver and gold faster than XLM. But that doesn't mean that they're not busy on it. As they have previously stated in the past, it's a major focus of what they're planning on using the Stellar blockchain for. And so, unfortunately, we're not really going to know who is going to end up being that winner. We have to let capitalism play out. All right. Yeah, no, Lady J, you're totally good over here. Koopa, it is getting a little bit worn out. It is getting a little bit worn out, but I think this may actually be one of the originals in terms of the tie-dye shirt. Tahoe, well, right here, and I'll read out your question because I've had some opinions that are kind of going down the same way. Tahoe, question, President Trump plays chess. Could the spat be a complicated opening strategy using distraction? Like, watch the beautiful assistant, not the magician. Plausible. I have been wondering about that one, Tahoe, because we have seen, well, we have seen a lot of issues in terms of certain Rhino Republicans that have been unwilling to play ball when it comes to Doge, and that's the Department of Government Efficiency, not the crap coin. And also in terms of a lot of the legislation. And by having Elon Musk be a little bit separate from the administration, be on the outs, he may be able to kind of more directly call out the perpetrators in the Republican Party, whereas he would have been fairly handicapped while he was still being considered a major part of the administration. You know, you don't, if you're a major part of the administration, you don't go talking crap about your employees. It's not good for workforce morale. And in that regard, there may be a lot of opportunities for him to really call out and kind of point towards the rhinos that are not towing the line and that are not really trying to make America great again. But also, and I think this is probably one of the toughest pills to swallow, is that, especially being a Trump supporter myself, is that Elon Musk is right on many cases, not on the silliness in terms of Epstein and all of that. I think that was just designed to be petty. That was just petty, and it was designed that way. The impeachment call towards Trump, that was designed to be petty. That's a callback to the Democrats calling for impeachment over and over and over again. The excuse that potentially the spat is about the EV funding being taken out with the big beautiful bill, I think that in and of itself is just silliness to really consider. That would be very, very petty, coming from a company that is operating in numbers that small subsidy is just really not important. It's a silly claim. But what Elon is very, very correct in is that the big beautiful bill does not cut government spending, not to the degree to which it needs to be cut. And in that regard, I think that Elon Musk is making a very, very important point. We honestly have got to look at this thing in a more extreme way than anybody is willing to currently accept. As a matter of fact, I had gone through and actually was debating doing a podcast a few weeks ago, talking about some of the things that may need to honestly be considered on the cut list that are, well, scary to imagine. We're bankrupt, guys. We're bankrupt. Our country's bankrupt. We really do not have the ability to continue down the path that we're on from a government spending standpoint without something monumental changing. Now, maybe this spat back and forth is going to be what opens up the conversation about a new change to the financial system. Very, very possibly. Or Elon Musk is just looking at the numbers and saying, you can't go having me cut government spending and then go in and pass a bill that's going to expand government debt over the coming years. And maybe it's nothing more than him feeling like his work was not appreciated. I don't know. There's so many ways to go about it. That's why I'm so curious to hear everybody else's opinion on it, because there's so many ways to look at this one. This is 5D chess, or it's nothing more than middle school drama. And I highly doubt that it's nothing more than middle school drama. Crazy Chester, this is a funny one. I know you have to say consult with a professional since crypto/blockchain is still somewhat new. Do you have an example of a professional? No, I don't. Crazy Chester, there aren't any. That's what makes it even funnier to say, because it's not like there's some kind of group or school or college or degree or anything of that nature that someone could have possibly achieved. There's no professional license that you can go out there and get. I can't go out and pass the bar exam, would be an example. You know, a lawyer that operates in your state has to go out and pass the bar exam in order to practice law inside of the state, in order to defend you or sue you, whatever it may be. In crypto, that doesn't exist. In financial industries, traditional financial industries, there are licenses, there are tests, there are regulatory bodies based around gatekeeping who is allowed to give professional financial advice. In crypto, guess what? It doesn't exist. And so it is kind of funny, in all honesty, when I go through and say it, Crazy Chester, because it really is, when we're sitting at this point in time in a new market and it's such new technology, there's no such thing as a professional. I think back to one of the stories that a coder had put out, and I believe it was one of the coders who had developed one of the new JavaScripts or something of that nature. I think, or it might have been a Mozilla. And he went and he had developed the coding language. And then he went to apply for a job. Now, keep in mind, he developed and created the coding language about a year before he applied to the job. And the job said that it needed somebody who had 4 years of experience on the coding language he literally built, developed, and invented. How can someone have more years of experience with something than the person who literally created it? It's impossible. And where we're in that time period right now, Crazy Chester, where there really is not. And that's what makes it so dangerous, because, well, just about anybody can go out there and say, well, hey, I'm a pro. It's like a snake oil salesman during the cowboy old Western days, where, you know, a snake oil salesman can claim that he's a doctor and travel from town to town peddling his poison. But in all honesty, the only reason he can do that is because nobody knows better. Nobody can tell him he's wrong. And that's where we sit. And that makes it very, very dangerous, Crazy Chester, because that's the reason I have this podcast. I have this podcast because of how bad all of the people out there claiming to be crypto professionals are when they give advice. They're wrong. They have no idea what they're talking about. Typically, they're just scamming people. And that's the reason that I started doing any of these. Was entirely because right now there are so few people who actually know how it works that there's a dearth of imposters running around. And that's the reason I do it. I'm hoping that with more information, more education, and more people actually just telling people the facts about what blockchain technology is doing and what it's up to, that maybe we'll start to see a move towards a more legitimate outlet for crypto information. And I hope that we will. We need to. It's going to be a part of the evolution. We're going to see proper channels be established in order to figure out whether somebody is knowledgeable about what they're talking about or not. Otherwise, you could just come out there and just start throwing out a bunch of technical buzzwords that, in all honesty, mean nothing. The best example I ever had is from actually a friend in college who said, technically, a sentence in English is buffalo, 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 buffalo. And that is technically a sentence. No one can prove you wrong, whether it is or isn't, because no one tends to be that knowledgeable about the English language and a variety of different definitions for the word buffalo. But he loved to use it. He loved to say it because no matter what, you couldn't prove him wrong. And I think very often in the cryptocurrency space and in any financial space, because it is so complicated, many, many, many people get away with essentially saying a bunch of words that don't actually amount to anything. But it's very interesting to watch. It's very interesting to watch. I'd be curious to hear from everyone out there some of the different folks that you've seen putting out cryptocurrency related knowledge or information, and some of the things that you've learned now that you can now look back on some of those things you heard from other content creators and say, wow, that wasn't just untrue. It was literally based on no degree of substantial fact. I bet everybody here has quite a few that they could point to now that folks are starting to learn more and more. Beezy 2.0. I believe all the Trump/Elon stuff is nothing but drama to bring more discussion to the big, beautiful bill. Hey. Kukla. Zester, when will you announce the one-on-one service you want to provide? I am still currently setting all of that one up, Kukla. There was a little bit of troubleshooting that had to be done. My hope would be that on Monday or Wednesday of next week, the service will actually be live. And what that service is, for anyone that's curious, is a one-on-one. You would actually schedule and pay for a time slot, and then you would tell me everything that you need to accomplish, whether that is setting up your wallets, whether that is discussing your portfolio, whether that is rebalancing, or whether that is looking towards other projects that you might be interested in. Essentially, anything and everything in the cryptocurrency space on a one-on-one basis. You'll be able to schedule out an hour, 2 hours, a couple hours each week in order to have one-on-one sessions. I've been setting that one up now for a little while. It's pretty much done, but I want to allow people the option to be able to be able to pay in different forms or fashions in terms of it. So I'm trying to get that one set up because I don't want to be giving crypto advice and not accept cryptocurrency as a potential payment. And so I'm still going to be doing the free live streams, but it's a way of providing a service to those who really need it to be one-on-one and want someone to go through specifically their problems the entire time to get it handled, to get it solved. I wish that I could handle that coming in terms of questions on a daily basis, but I just can't keep up. And so That is what Kukla is referring to there, and I'm very excited for it. Lisa BH, a script, all actors, we have enough gold, unlimited. We will never be told the truth, so no worries. I would definitely agree that we'll probably never know the exact truth, Lisa. Unfortunately. Tahoe, the goal is a restored republic. To accomplish that, the corporation must be bankrupted, raise the debt ceiling, and print more worthless fiat currency. The US dollar will collapse and the republic is restored. And unfortunately, Tahoe, it does not look like anything is going to be forced through in terms of change until they've hit a pain point, a pressure point that is so extreme that there's no other option. And that's something that we've often hypothesized in terms of the move in a new financial system, is that the only way that the powers that be are going to be willing to relinquish control is when they genuinely do not have any other choice. Christina 999, greetings all. Any ideas on cryptocurrency tied to energy? Thank you in advance. Christina, this is actually a very, very interesting field in terms of blockchain technology and the idea that we would start to tokenize energy. And there are already some very small projects that are exploring the idea around it, from a matter of climate credits, which have already been tokenized and are being traded actively through a variety of different protocols. But also, what I think is more interesting is the idea of tokenized units of energy being supplied to the energy grid. And the reason that this would be so interesting is because it would decentralize the power system. There are a variety of different reasons this would be very good for the American people from a liberty standpoint, but also from an efficiency standpoint. And that's where we've seen current proposals, actually, Christina, to tokenize a kilowatt of energy provided to the power grid, to tokenize a megawatt provided to the power grid. And in that way, to allow people to start producing energy in a decentralized fashion and actually have an accounting system for them selling it back. We know already that certain states have the ability for you to put solar panels on top of your house and then sell that power back to the energy company. That's already happening. What is kind of being hypothesized with blockchain technology is that we could actually take a system of that nature and we could put it on steroids, because we could have an open marketplace of energy being offered across the state, across the county, across the nation, depending upon how wide it reaches. And also, Christina, we could start to look towards standardizing the idea of energy from a variety of different sources, whether it's coal-powered energy plants or natural gas-powered or nuclear or solar panels. We could start to actually organize this. And so, Christina, it will undoubtedly end up happening. But right now, we're kind of in the fledgling stages of that sector in terms of blockchain. But we've already, I remember back in 2018, there were projects that were beginning, and also based around environmental protections and things of that nature, which in certain regards, some of the projects I supported and some I didn't. But it is out there, Christina. It is out there. Oh, the original Mark Z, nice shirt. Hey, it's not too bad. It's not too shabby. What's up, Pops? All right, looking for more questions. Mark Z is in the house. He is. Merkba Star. Actually, there are already. And well, one of them is very, very famous for its launch and also its very, very quick failure. But it is a very unique case. And so Merkba Star asks, are there any crypto related to petroleum products and its use? And there are actually OPEC nations are currently funding a project to develop exactly that, a cryptocurrency that is pegged to the value of a barrel of oil. OPEC nations are already busy on that one. To my knowledge, they've already completed it. It's just a matter of rollout and deciding when they want to do it. But Mercosur, the most famous example of this, is actually Venezuela. Venezuela, during the sanctions, actually went ahead and tokenized a cryptocurrency that was pegged to the Venezuelan oil reserves. Now, on account of sanctions and everything else, and also who's going to trust Maduro, this did not work out. But from a logistics standpoint, from a was this a good idea or not, in all honesty, it really was a good idea. And it probably would have worked. It just was not going to work when the vast majority of nations that would have been investing into this crypto pegged petroleum product were not allowed to participate. And so, in that regard, it is happening, and it has been done already. It just so happens that OPEC is currently busy developing theirs or has already developed it. And Venezuela is the example of one that's already been released, and that was designed exactly for that. It was pegged to a barrel of Venezuelan oil. And I highly, highly expect this to become a regular occurrence where there will be a company operating or a cryptocurrency operating in Iraq that will be a tokenized value of a barrel of oil, because that would allow for investors across the world to actually go ahead and start buying surplus, buying supply via the blockchain. I would be able to go in and say, okay, my company, I run a gas station, whatever, and it's far more complicated than this, by the way. Commodity trading is an insanely complicated endeavor. Having played around with it and knowing in terms of pops, it's insanely complicated. But to simplify it, you can imagine a world in which I would be capable, while sitting here in Puerto Rico, of actually going ahead and investing in Iraqi oil production. I could buy barrels of oil via the blockchain before they've even been produced or pumped out of the ground. Or I could buy those in terms of a general deal. I could work with all of you, and we could all go in together via the blockchain, and we could buy 100,000 barrels of Iraqi oil, and then we could actually make the connecting deal to a buyer in the United States. There are so many ways that the fractionalization of ownership are going to change how our world operates in terms of global trade. And really, there are so many other ways to go about this, Merkba. We have the example of Venezuela. We have the example of OPEC going through and developing. But as we look towards the future, that really is going to be just a small facet of it. We're going to be tokenizing solar panel outputs. And those solar panel outputs are going to be purchased by companies in order to resell that power. The petroleum products, the same idea. People are going to be purchasing via the blockchain barrels of oil in order for them to be resold or for them to be manufactured into a variety of different petroleum-based products. Those things are going to start happening faster and faster, and they already are. Yeah, the original Mark Z. I like Chainlink. I am a big fan of Chainlink, and as a matter of fact, we actually have a Chainlink-related article over here today, which was somewhat interesting, and I'll actually jump over to that before I go back to answering questions. Because as we see here, and something I've talked about in the past, Chainlink is built on the Ethereum blockchain, but the service they provide is designed for all blockchains. And so now we've got yield-bearing stablecoins coming to Solana via a Maple Finance Chainlink integration. These are the things that you want to be looking for as you're looking at cryptocurrencies. you want to see that they're actually a legitimate, profitable company. They're serving a fundamental need in the market. And this is something we all need to be keeping in mind with the change in terms of how cryptocurrency works and how we're now moving into a mainstream adoption of crypto. We're going to start to need to view cryptocurrencies in the same way that we would corporations. I'm not going to invest in buying stock in a corporation that always loses money. That's not going to work out, but for so long, is it? It'd be a bad deal. And it's the same idea with cryptocurrencies. Do they serve a purpose? Is there a legitimate reason to hold them? And in this case, well, Chainlink is an Ethereum token that is being paid. The company is being paid, and Chainlink is what has to be purchased in order to pay the fees. And that's being paid by a variety of different people across the industries. And so that's just one kind of good example of things that we need to be looking towards as we move in and we start to look at which cryptos do we want to hold. Are they actually doing something that the world needs? Chainlink is a great example of a crypto token that is not backed by anything, but has a value proposition. A joyful voice. Can you get XLM XRP off or funds off a ledger? I disconnected my wallet to stop my crypto from going down on dashboard. It is still giving me increased funds. A joyful voice, your dashboard actually on Ledger over here, it's nothing. It's not a matter of it being connected. And so when you actually view your portfolio and you view any of the wallets that have been connected to Ledger, this is a window. In all honesty, all you're doing is looking at what's there. This actual Ledger Live application is nothing more than a window. Your device itself is what actually controls anything. And so when you're looking on your Ledger Live, you don't need to worry about that. All you need to worry about is that when you're done, when you're done with your moving crypto or anything of that nature with Ledger Live, all you do is disconnect. The second you disconnected, it's nothing to worry about. You're good. You can click and open up your Ledger Live at any point throughout the day, at any time, anywhere, and you can check to see how your portfolio is doing, but you do not have any control over it. You can't send funds. You can't do anything. And so, a joyful voice, you don't need to worry about that. I know it is stressful when you see your dashboard going down, but keep in mind that that is just the price of cryptocurrencies fluctuating. So whenever you do see that, all you're seeing is that I can go over and click on, one of Zester's XRP wallets over here. And, Zester's XRP goes up and down in terms of value on a daily basis based off of the price of XRP. So if XRP goes down, well, my portfolio goes down, but I still have the same amount of XRP that I had. And so in the past month, my XRP in this wallet has lost 6% of its value, or $187.49. But it hasn't actually lost anything because I didn't sell. And so in that regard, all it's doing is keeping up and just letting you know what are the current prices of the cryptocurrencies you hold. So you don't need to worry, a joyful voice. You don't need to worry on that one at all. Hey there, Tuzus Yamek. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Tuzus. Hello, bro. How are you? I'm doing well. I hope you are as well. And howdy there. Azad from Turkey. Glad to have you here today. Very glad to have you. All right. PH, is ADA a good crypto to consider buying? Well, Cardano is a very interesting cryptocurrency. And actually, Cardano has a lot of things that it's been busy doing that are a little bit different than some of the competition. ADA currently sitting at 66 cents. I would go ahead and specify or point out that ADA is very much down from its all-time highs. I mean, very, very much down, 78.4% down from 4 years ago. Cardano is Cardano is a bit of a mix. And so Cardano, to kind of give you a more simplified idea of what it is, Cardano is like a combination of Ethereum and XRP or XLM. It's like a combination of those two different blockchains. They operate very, very differently. You look at the consensus mechanism of XRP, and then you look at the proof of stake verification of Ethereum. They're very different, and yet Cardano essentially is trying to merge the two. Cardano wants to allow you to build smart contracts on its platform while also providing extremely cheap transaction fees. Cardano is kind of the one where they want to have their cake and they want to eat it too. And they're backed and pushed forth by a guy named Charles Hoskinson. He's considered a bit of a savant in terms of the technology space. And so Cardano is a very, very interesting cryptocurrency. I would say they have not released a lot recently in terms of technology. They've made a lot of announcements about things that they're planning on doing, and they've released trials and they've released early versions and early betas of things they're planning on providing. But they really have not managed to put the proof in the pudding in terms of some of their technology. They are still a blue chip cryptocurrency. I hold Cardano. I do not hold as much Cardano as I hold of other things, but I hold Cardano because they are a blue chip crypto. They fit into the same category. If you were to compare this to stocks, they would fit into the same category of, the big 40 or something of that nature. They're blue chip. Cardano is the number 10th largest cryptocurrency on the planet. Cardano has $24 billion in terms of a current market capitalization. They are no slouch, and they have a lot of potential movement upwards. Something that you can point towards, though, and I think it's something I don't like to see, is that they do have particularly low 24-hour volume typically on Cardano, and most all of the volume, when you actually check on Cardano and you go down here and you look at where their volume is coming from, most all of their volume is coming from Binance. Binance allows for wash trading and bot trading. And so there is a lot of falsified liquidity or a lot of falsified volume in terms of Cardano, but that is a statement that can be made about the vast majority of cryptocurrencies. The vast majority of cryptocurrencies' 24-hour volume, general trade volume, is highly inflated because of the use of wash trading and volume trading, which is technically illegal by the SEC, but it doesn't actually really define what cryptocurrency is. And so people all over the world on a regular basis are running bot traders that are constantly inflating the amount of volume that you'll see in a cryptocurrency. But that's normal across all of them. That is in no way just a singular issue. That is all the cryptos have that occurring. All right. Wanda KJM, when do you think businesses will need to have the ability to use cryptocurrencies? Wanda, I think that time is occurring right now. Essentially, in the same way that all businesses at this point in time are hiring AI professionals and people who understand artificial intelligence, it's the same thing going on in terms of blockchain specialists, where right now businesses are having to adapt to the change in terms of the new world. And to use an example, Freedom Forge Coffee, which, that's us. That's the Freedom Forge Coffee. Like when we set that up, you can buy with cryptocurrency. We set it up, no problem. It wasn't a big deal, wasn't even all that bad. It didn't take all that long. Jeremy and myself got that one together in no time. And I think Jeremy had the plug-in working in a matter of like 5 minutes from him having gotten permission. And so it is happening right now. It just is going to be different across the different sectors. And so financial services and financial industries, they're already having to learn about it. They're already have full branches in the company that are all sitting around going, hey, we got to figure this out. Other companies are going to get a little bit more of a break. And so the coffee shop, we're ahead of the curve. We're accepting cryptocurrency way ahead of time. But you're going to start to see other little companies, they're going to have to go in and figure that out. They're going to have to go in and figure out how to accept cryptocurrency, how to transact back and forth between their cryptocurrency. They're going to need to start to learn how to use an example. We have an amazing farmer in El Salvador. Awesome guy, supporter of Bukele, makes amazing, amazing coffee. Well, at some point in the near future, companies are going to be going about it and saying, hey, I'm actually going to buy that coffee that we plan on having shipped to the United States. I'm going to buy that via a cryptocurrency. And that's going to happen. As a matter of fact, that same coffee farm and Jorge, who came on and actually talked a couple of weeks ago on the original Mark Z, he was at the Bitcoin conference in Las Vegas talking about how their coffee is going to be tracked from the time that it's grown to the moment that it enters into your cup via the blockchain. And so that's one of the reasons we like working with him so much, is because, well, he's already aware of the technology and the move that the world is heading towards. And it's going to become something that every company is going to have to be knowledgeable about. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and use another example right here. Trump Media has now submitted a new SEC filing to purchase a $2.3 billion Bitcoin reserve. Trump Media is the group behind Truth Social. And so Truth Social is not a financial company. Truth Social is a social media company that happens to do a few other things. But now they're planning and they're filing in order to actually purchase a $2.3 billion Bitcoin reserve. And so this is something that's going to continue happening. We're going to continue to see businesses across all different sectors have to adopt or have to adapt potentially to blockchain technology. And it's happening now. There really is no more time. If you're a major financial services institution and you're not already done developing internal blockchain accounting services, you're going to be a bankrupt financial service in just a few years. Or you're going to be buying and paying for a company that has developed service. Susie Q, does Dogecoin have a place in the future? Of course, in your opinion. In my opinion, Susie Q, Dogecoin will only ever have the purpose of being a funny meme. They've never developed anything to use it for. They don't plan on ever developing something for it to really be used for. Short of Elon Musk deciding that he's going to take over Doge and he's going to actually start developing something that brings in money, I do not see a future value proposition for Doge besides it being funny. And please understand, that may be enough to make a lot of money. You may be able to buy Doge, and because it's funny and more people will adopt crypto and more people will buy a little bit of the funny doggy coin, it may continue to go up at some point. But the way that Doge works is inflationary. And so whenever a Doge block is mined, the people that are actually running the network, what occurs is new Doge is minted and given to them. It is a perpetual hyperinflationary cryptocurrency. And that's designed. It's made to be that way. It's intentional. And that's one of the great things about crypto is that you know the rules. In terms of Doge, I can tell you the rules. The rules are it will continue to print new Doge forever in order to actually run the blockchain. Bitcoin, on the other hand, will only ever have 21 million Bitcoin. And that will occur at some point in like 2160, 100 and some years from now, will be the time that there will be 21 million. We know the rules. And in that regard, because I know the rules of Doge, I'm not feeling very confident on account of the fact that I do know the rules. Kelly Bogart, what about Shiba? I absolutely have heard about Shiba, Kelly. Shiba, very similar to Doge, but big difference. Shiba actually is not inflationary. Shiba has a fixed amount of tokens that will ever exist. Shiba Inu is built on the Ethereum blockchain. And essentially, though, Kelly, it's same answer as Doge. Shiba only has value as it being a funny meme. And ultimately, that's the only value to it. And so if more people continue to say, hey, it's funny, I want to own some, then the price will continue to go up. If at any point people look at it and say, is Shiba ever going to actually become a profitable business or a valuable proposition? Well, then the price is going to go down. And that's kind of where it sits at, Kelly. All right. Merkaba Star, does Pi coin have a potential to be worth more in the long run? Merkaba Star, Pi coin is an interesting project. For those that don't know, Pi coin is a cryptocurrency that you mine via your cell phone. It's been quite popular since, I believe, 2019 or so. I have a phone somewhere that used to be mining Pi. Merkaba, what I would say is that Pi, as a company, what they did was they managed to get massive adoption for the Pi wallet and the Pi network. But what they've yet to do is provide any value to the Pi network. And so Pi is an interesting one because of the way that it was distributed via people actually mining or running a little software program on their cell phones. That made it very interesting, and it made it very approachable. But ultimately, until Pi comes out with a, hey, here's a service that, we can charge people money for, then they're still going to kind of continue to be nothing more than a extremely important tool for crypto adoption. And that's why everyone in cryptocurrency owes Pi a thank you, because Pi managed to get a lot of people to start learning about crypto. In that regard, Pi is extremely valuable. And from a financial standpoint, guess it depends on how many you manage to mine over the years. Nature Girl, I remember my question from the other day. If I purchase cryptocurrency with Aussie dollars and then some using US dollars, will Ledger adjust the amount of coins to either currency? Will it be the same? Nature Girl, you're actually, whenever you go over to your Ledger or anything of that nature, you actually have the ability to edit what currency you are viewing it in. And so, Nature Girl, remember that essentially whatever the exchange rate is from a dollar to an Aussie dollar is going to be upheld when you go to purchase crypto. If I can buy 5 Stellar for 1 US dollar, I'm only going to be able to buy 3.5 or 4 for 1 Aussie dollar. But otherwise, you can change what metric of dollars is being used inside of your ledger. And so you could change it to have your ledger actually be valued in euros or be valued in Aussie dollars or Canadian dollars or whatever. And so that one's just in the settings of Ledger Live. You can actually change them. All right. Sandy Elric, Tier 1 networks, XRP and XLM will be the infrastructure layers for finance to finance, business to business, business to peer, peer to peer. Exactly, Sandy. And different Tier 1 blockchains serve different purposes. In that regard, Tier 1 Ethereum is designed to actually have Tier 2, Tier 3, Layer 1, Layer 2, Layer 3 is typically the terminology that is used in the industry. They say it's a layer 1 blockchain or a layer 2 blockchain. And in that regard, that's kind of the industry technical term. But a layer 1, like XRP or XLM, is designed to be built upon. It's just not designed to be built upon in the same way that, say, Ethereum as a layer 1 blockchain is designed to be built on, or Solana. Solana and Ethereum are designed for open source building. Anybody can build. XRP and XLM, that's not the case. I'm not allowed to just build on the XRP blockchain. I need to go through and actually get approval, get a partnership, get all kinds of things to happen. I need a buttload of money and all kinds of other crap. Whereas Ethereum, I can literally just go start building. If I have the technical know-how, I can just do it. And in that regard, there's always going to be kind of a disparity between what people are using different blockchains for, until maybe we see some changes in terms of how each one works. FC slot. Zester, I need to get out of Lobstr. I highly recommend everybody gets out of Lobstr. What do you suggest as an alternative? FC slot, I would suggest either a hardware wallet, which you can go in to the description in my link tree and you can get a discount on getting a hardware wallet, or I would recommend Uphold, Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, anybody. Essentially, I'd recommend anybody but Lobstr. And I don't mean, I say that jokingly, but to a degree, I mean it. Anybody but Lobstr. I would personally say Coinbase, Uphold, Kraken, Gemini. Pick any of those, and you're going to be better off. First choice, in my opinion, is Coinbase. If Coinbase is an option, go Coinbase. Now, please remember, I do not ever recommend that anyone keeps their cryptocurrency on a centralized exchange. That is a personal choice that you have to make. If you choose to keep your crypto on a centralized exchange, understand that you are taking on a risk of that centralized exchange having any issue or any data breach. There is an extra point of failure whenever you are keeping your money and trusting your money to someone else. In the same regard, that if I give my money to Wells Fargo and Wells Fargo loses it, guess who's also screwed? Not just Wells Fargo, Zester's screwed. Now, we have FDIC insurance and other safety measures nowadays to ensure that I could be compensated at some point in time, but ultimately, I'm still trusting my money to someone else. And in crypto, the common saying is not your keys, not your crypto. And I think everyone needs to go ahead and tattoo that thing on your arm, write it somewhere above wherever you do anything crypto related, not your keys, not your crypto. And in that regard, I would highly advise getting a hardware wallet, just because you no longer then ever have to have the general worry. If you do and set up a hardware wallet the proper way, you will not have worries in the future about whether your cryptocurrency is safe or not. You put it onto this and you write down your words properly and you put this in a safe place and you go in and get frozen. What's the movie? You know, the caveman frozen in ice. You get frozen in ice for 100 years, and then you wake back up and you walk back out and you pick back up your hardware wallet. Guess what? It's still gonna be just fine and safe and right where you left it, even after your 100-year nap. All right. Lilypad, on Lobstr, there's a warning by Doge T. It says that it is a scam asset. Do you know what's up with this? Okay, Lilypad, and this is one of the reasons that I flippin' hate Lobstr. Lobstr has fake assets up there for sale. Fake cryptos. They just put them up there for sale because they don't actually regulate or in any way curate the cryptocurrencies or crypto tokens that are for sale on their platform. And so Lobstr allows you to buy Doge tea. Does Doge tea exist? No, it doesn't exist. But Lobster's like, sure, go for it, buy some. But what you actually bought off of Lobstr was not Doge. You bought a cryptocurrency that is called Doge, and they trick everybody. It's total BS what Lobstr does to their customers. Absolute total BS what they do to their customers. I have had people who bought tokenized diamonds on Lobstr, people that bought tokenized XRP, or what they thought was tokenized XRP. I've had people who bought what they thought were tokenized stocks on Lobstr. Guess what? None of them were true, unfortunately. And so I'm very, very sorry to let you know, Lilypad, that almost all of the variety of cryptocurrencies on Lobstr fit into a scam asset category. Whoever kept recommending to people Lobstr, I am very, very sorry. And that person deserves a serious comeuppance from the world, because Lobstr is a empirically horrible centralized exchange. It is horrible. It is so bad at what it's supposed to be doing. It really is incredible. And so I see, though, and I know that Lobstr is used by so many in the community, and I'm so sorry for that. I hope, and that's the reason I run the show, is because I hope to push people towards better options going into the future. Because, yes, many folks have a variety of assets held in their Lobstr wallets that are not legitimate. What I would say, though, for those that do have Lobstr wallets, there are legitimate cryptocurrencies being held in your Lobstr wallets. There are. What very often was the scam that occurred is that people went out and they said, hey, check out this new token that's just launching on Lobstr. It's going to be the next big deal. Everybody rushed in. They bought a bunch of it, and it was just a rug pull. They took all the money and they ran away with it. And if you bought legitimate Stellar on Lobstr, if you bought legitimate XRP on Lobstr, if you bought legitimate Ethereum or other cryptos, they are legitimate cryptocurrencies. And you can get those back. The problem is that Lobstr just allowed for fake cryptos to be sitting next to real cryptos. And that's where everybody got into trouble. It's because people looked at it and they said, okay, I'm here to buy XRP. And there's XRPL, XRP1, XRP3, XRPD, XRPZ, XRPD, XRPLD. And everybody went through and they were learning about crypto and they chose the wrong one. That's where Lobstr screwed everybody. By having all of these different options that were all very, very different, but all appeared to be the same. And so I would be, though, for all those who are on Lobstr, I would highly recommend, when I do set out my schedule come Monday or Wednesday of next week, I would highly recommend that the folks that have substantial amounts of money on Lobstr, we are going to need one-on-one sessions to get it back. It is a complicated exchange for people to operate in. And so that would be one where I'm hoping that in the near future, I manage to knock out a lot of the different issues that folks in the community have had with Lobstr. And I'm also planning on putting together a warning video, actually, to warn people against going to Lobstr. And I really hope that people will support me in sharing that far and wide, because I am going to actually take the gloves off and I'm going to show people what Lobstr has been doing over these past years and what people have been using Lobstr to perpetrate against their communities. And I hope when that video comes out that everyone makes certain that it gets seen by as many folks as possible, because this is not just a me thing. I have talked with like Paul Brooker over at Charlie Ward. He does cryptocurrency and things for Charlie, and I do a show with him once a week. And he said it's the same thing, where 99% of all the problems they receive are in regards to Lobstr. And that's the problems that they get messages about all the time. Hey, I have a problem with my Lobstr account. Hey, I have a problem with my Lobstr account. And so keep in mind that it is not in any way a small issue. This is an issue that essentially everyone that's ever gotten onto that exchange happens to have. So with all of that stated, love you guys so much. Seeing the time, we're at an hour. I will be back again on Monday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, hopefully making an announcement about the release of the Calendly. But if not, it will be on Wednesday. And also, there will be a video coming out in regards to Ledger Live in the very near future. I was trying to do that in a live stream, but unfortunately, I was trying to show people how to set up staking and a variety of other services, and it displays a large portion of my personal data during that process. And so I had to record the video in order to be able to put it out, but that video has already been recorded. And so there will be a video coming out very, very soon in regards to set up and utilizing all of the different features of your Ledger Live software. It just has to be scrubbed of all of Zester's personal information, because while I trust everyone in the community, I know that some random person will probably also stumble upon the video, and I don't necessarily trust that random person who may or may not stumble upon the video and find all of my personal information. So with all of that said, once again, love you guys. Have an amazing, amazing weekend, and I will see you again come Monday.